Hello and welcome to Beach View, our podcast about different things and/or stuff.
Hey, today we're going to be talking about something that's been on my mind lately, and that is when streaming services release like movies or TV series, when they release seasons either all at once or when they like hold on to them and release them like on a scheduled time, like once a week.
Yeah, there's actually been quite a bit of discussion about this online recently.
Well, I was just discussing this week because I was annoyed with the series I started watching. And I was like, this aggravates me. And we can argue either way about it. But I don't like when they release them once a week because it's like I got so used to the instant gratification of having everything all at once, you know?
Yeah.
But there are also like pros and cons to each way. So what side of the fence are you on?
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of the all-at-once model,
Yeah.
which was the norm for a while, but is starting to move back the other way. I know, like Disney Plus, I believe, releases their shows weekly instead.
Yeah, and I like Hulu does the same thing. I was watching a show on Hulu, and I had just started watching it, so the first season was all on there. So I watched all of those, and then I was excited to hear that the second season was already about to come out, because I was, late to the game watching the show. So the second season starts coming out, and it's just released, like, once a week. And I was like, man, like, I had gotten used to watching this show anytime I wanted, and now I have to wait for it. Which I think is really interesting, because, of course, before streaming services, stuff was, had a timed release.
Yeah.
And we didn't think anything of it, it was aggravating then, too.
Right. It was kind of hard to watch when you wanted.
Right, exactly. And so it's like you had to go look at the old TV guide and see like when your show is coming out. And anyway, that's a whole other story. But the whole thing is, it's like you get so used to just having everything at once and being able to watch it. And then when it's like a slow release, it's kind of like you almost lose interest in it because it's like, well, if I can't watch them all at once, then I don't feel like waiting once a week. On the other hand, it does build suspense, and it's like kind of makes you want to watch it because, you want to see what happens next, and they left you hanging last week.
Yeah.
So I think creatively, too, when shows release like that, I feel like, a lot of times they'll put more, like, cliffhangers at the end of episodes so that you tune in next time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, I can go either way, but I do get annoyed when I have to wait. So
yeah,
it's kind of one of those situations. Like, we're spoiled,
Well, for me, it's not about, like, having to wait or not. Well, I guess it is, but not in the same way of, like, me being impatient and I want to see the next thing now. To me, It's like a pacing issue where there are some shows that I just don't think work as well on a weekly release schedule.
Yes. Very true. Very true. So do you have an example?
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I feel like oftentimes if I'm ever watching a show weekly, like, I feel like, this would be better all at once. And I get that with, like, YouTube series, too, which aren't, like, fictional narrative things, but where, like, there was this one series I was watching through where I came to it late, like you did with that TV show, and I watched, just very quickly through the first, like, they were playing through several games in a series, and I watched, like, them play through the first 2 games, just back to back, because they were already finished with them, and then I watched the third one as it came out, and I was like, this isn't as good.
No, it's not, and I think that's also true for limited series, like, when there's just, I guess you'd call it, like, a one-season show that's a limited series. And a lot of times it's like a docu-series. It doesn't really work as well when it's timed and spaced out. It works better when it's all together.
Yeah. And, like, after it finished, I was, like, thinking back through it, and I'm like, okay, I guess it wasn't as bad as I thought. It just doesn't hold up to the, like, weekly schedule as well as it did to me watching it all at once.
Yeah.
Having it all at once to watch.
Absolutely. No, I definitely agree with that. And it's just, you know, I think we got so used to it being a certain way. I also feel that way though when I go from like Netflix to Hulu, from Hulu to Prime, like just the different platform, you know, and the other ones as well, but just the different platforms and the way they're set up. To me, it's like, it's kind of jarring because if I watch Netflix for like a while, I get used to it, you know, and then like I go over to Prime Video and like, you know, I'm a cheapskate. Like I don't pay for like the full Prime access to all of the stuff. And so like I'll click on something wanting to watch it and it's like, oh, well, you have to rent it for $5.99 instead of watching. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
just get used to one platform over the other. And then Hulu, what is most jarring to me on Hulu is how sometimes they'll have a series posted, but then the episodes expire.
Ew.
And so, like, if I miss the first 3 episodes and they're not there anymore, I can't go back and watch it. And that's usually for stuff that is, like, released on TV and, you know, it'll show up on Hulu, like, the next day.
Yeah.
But they'll expire some of the episodes, like, really fast. I don't know how fast because I guess I don't pay that much attention. But to me, that's like, well, wait, I wanted to watch this. And now, you know, now you're telling me I can't even see it. So I don't know. It's just how they're all set up differently. And it's kind of like we were used to it before we had streaming services. We were used to like, if you missed an episode, like you have to wait until they start showing reruns, you know?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like now that we don't, or, you know, a lot of people don't use regular cable TV anymore. It's like we just got spoiled, I guess, or I guess we had expectations and they're not being met anymore. I don't know.
I don't know that I'd call it spoiled, for me at least, because, like, I have before waited for, like, a show to be completely out if it's on the weekly release before watching it. Like, I'm willing to be patient to get it the way I want it. It's just,
okay,
like, sometimes
that's good. Yeah.
if I am impatient and jump in and watch it weekly, I'm just like, I don't think this holds up as well.
Yeah, and I agree with that. The other thing is, like, I know we kind of talked about before a little bit, is that I kind of get annoyed when I'm like, okay, where's the new content? Like, hurry up. It's like, I'm so impatient. Like, I watch a season and, like, a year goes by before another season comes out, and I'm just like, what? And I'm like, I understand, like, the creative process and everything, and filming and logistics and editing all takes time, but at the same time I'm kind of like, you gave us this amazing season and now I have to wait a year for another, you know? Or like, where's some new shows I can watch in the meantime? Like, time your shows better. Like, as if I know better, you know?
Yeah.
It's yeah, I feel like a little entitled. So I guess that's why I say spoiled, because I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, obviously these people know what they're doing, you know?
Yeah, so I have seen some people argue, though, for the weekly model, and it seems to come down to, like, either one of the things you said of how it can, like, build suspense and, like,
sure,
you know, they can wait week to week. Like, I've seen one of the complaints about TV shows that were released all at once is that they kind of turn into, some of them at least, you know, this is on, like, an individual show-by-show basis, but some of them turn into these kind of, like, blobs that end up more as, like, really long movies than TV series.
Yes, exactly.
And another thing is the discussion and sort of, like, culture around it, that if it releases weekly, it stays much longer in the public consciousness than if it comes out all at once, where it kind of just, like, fades out much quicker.
It's absolutely, and it's very true. And another part of that is, you know, I've heard that a series may even have more episodes if it's released weekly because there's more time for editing.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was also, you know, kind of an interesting take too, because it's like, yeah, that's true. I mean, you know, they can release it faster with more episodes than if they just edited everything at once and released it like that, because there's a lot of pressure to release things timely, obviously. Mm-hmm. So I think that, you know, there are pros and cons to both of them. The thing that I really, really hate, though, like I said, is when they expire episodes. And I think Hulu's the only one that does that. I don't know if, like, Prime or... I'm not real familiar with, like, Paramount or, like, Peacock and stuff. I don't know if they do that as well. But as far as I've come across, like Hulu's the only one that does that, and not for everything either. So it's like I'm always confused. Like Hulu just confuses me. I'm always confused whether like is this series going to stay on here forever? Do the episodes expire? When do new seasons come out? Like it's just a constant state of confusion. It's probably me. Like I just don't pay enough attention to Hulu or don't watch it enough to really understand. But it's just like, could somebody give me like a cheat sheet, like a tutorial on this?
But yeah, I mean, I think even with that, like, I do think it stays, like, culturally relevant for longer.
Definitely.
That's usually not something I care about.
Yeah.
Like, I'd prefer to have it just all at once. And, I mean, one thing about it releasing all at once that I think's good is you can watch it at your own pace.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you want to watch it weekly, you can, but you can also watch it all at once, or you can, like, pace it out like an episode or two a day, or however, works best for you. And I think that's a lot better.
I agree.
And I mean, that's how people watch shows once they've been out, like once they're finished.
Right,
it's always like that.
Yeah, and I think like, I don't know about you, but every once in a while, I do get in a mood to binge watch something. And so like, I might be, late one night, I don't feel like going to bed yet. Like, let me put on a show that I can watch like 4 episodes of, So
yeah.
And if you can't, if I'm really interested in a show and it doesn't have episodes out, it's just kind of like, ugh. But another thing I do, and this is also probably a pro for the platforms if they're released weekly, like I'll watch them once a week. And then once all the shows are out, I'll go back and like rewatch the whole series because I feel like I lose stuff in between.
Yeah.
The release. So I'll forget like week to week, like what exactly happened sometimes. So I'll go back and rewatch the whole series again with all the episodes there. So it's probably good because you have like more viewership, or I guess it's the same viewers, but more views on those videos. Yeah. But I don't know. I like to do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll rewatch series all the time. I don't know, I just like to watch, like, after I already knew what happens, I go back and watch and see if there's anything I missed, and just, like, something on in the background, too, sometimes, like, when I'm cleaning or whatever. And I can't do that when they, like, expire the episode, so that is my biggest complaint right there. I'm gonna write a letter to somebody. Stop doing that.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't like the weekly model, I think.
No, yeah. I'm not a huge fan. I mean, it works, like we said, it works in certain instances, and there are, real reasons and good reasons why the networks do it or why those particular shows do it, but at the same time, I'm just like, give the people what they want. They want to see a show. Meet the demand,
I think, though, yeah, when the all-at-once model was the most popular, I think that was a better way to do it.
Absolutely.
But some people disagree, and it's starting to move the other way, so, I mean, we'll see if it continues going that way, or if, like, more people start moving back to the all-at-once model, or what.
Yeah, I don't know, and it's like, I know I'm a demanding customer, because, like, I just saw my Netflix bill, and it's, like, gone up, since we first started with Netflix.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, if it gets to $20, I'm canceling it. Like, I'm not paying for that every month. Like, I'm like, $20 in the scheme of things is not a lot to pay for Netflix, but that's where I'm at in life. I'm just like, no, I'm not paying any. If the cost rises more and more and more, I'm just canceling it, and we won't have anything to watch. So, yeah, that's kind of...
Well, there are ways to still watch stuff. See previous episode.
Right, exactly.
Wink, wink.
Yes. Took some notes on that one. I think I saved it in the notes on my phone, like how to go watch stuff, so... And I think, as I mentioned before, when I was a poor grad student, like real broke, I, used to find creative ways to watch things as well.
Yeah, that's, television stuff, I guess. Do you have anything else to add on to that, or you want to get into the next topic?
No, I mean, again, I will say, like, I just want to watch my shows when I want to watch them, so I hope all the executives listening to this just really take note, because our opinions matter.
Yeah, well...
Yeah, that's it.
My message isn't so much to the executive. Well, I guess they have the decision-making power, but I still think in the majority of cases that the all-at-once model is just better creatively than a weekly one.
I agree.
It depends on the show.
Yeah,
Alright, well, that was a short first topic. Let's get into our next one. Alright. So, the next topic is an online argument. So, I thought I'd do something maybe a bit weird. We're often talking about random internet stuff.
Okay.
Especially videos on the internet. This isn't that, but it's kind of, in the vein of internet stuff. And I thought I'd get into some of that. So I'm going to outline an online argument. It's rather low stakes, so
okay.
Don't feel like you need to really, get into it here. But I want to see which side you come down on.
Okay.
So, I do have a position on this, but I'm going to try to present the argument even-handedly. But before we get into the argument, I'm going to have to give some background.
Okay.
Actually, a lot of background. This might be mostly, preamble. So, fair warning.
Okay.
So, this is an argument about Pokemon. The famous series with the cute little monsters that you collect in battle. We talked about it on the podcast before.
I'm familiar, yep.
Yep. Specifically competitive Pokemon. So if you didn't know, the Pokemon games have a competitive scene where players collect their little monster guys, and then they battle each other with them.
Mm-hmm.
And this has officially sanctioned events by the Pokemon Company, and you go to tournaments and events and stuff, and you build up, you get points, and you can go to regional and then national events, and eventually it builds up to a world championship.
What? I had no idea.
Yeah, it's basic sports stuff, but for video games instead.
Okay.
So, before we get into this argument, I need to give some background about competitive Pokemon, how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So, you'd think you'd just catch some Pokemon in the game and then show up to an event and start battling, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's more complicated than that, because while you can do that, you probably shouldn't do that, because you would probably not do very well.
Why?
So, Pokemon have various stats, and different stuff they can do, and these are different for each Pokemon, not just for different species, but for individuals of that same species. So, for example, two Pikachus, despite being the same Pokemon, are not going to have the same stats as each other, and they'll thus perform differently in battle.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Right, and the, stat things in particular we're talking about are called IVs, abilities, and natures. IVs are hidden stats that correspond to the 6 stats used in battle, which are health, attack, defense, special defense, and speed. I'm not going to get into what all those mean, just that they exist.
Okay.
Abilities are special features that different Pokemon have that allow them to do different things. Some of them let them move faster under certain circumstances, stuff like that. And natures are a thing every Pokemon has that boost one of the battle stats and lowers another.
Okay.
So there's 2 main ways to get Pokemon. You can run around and find them to catch, or you can get ones you already have caught, get them to breed and produce eggs, and then you hatch the eggs.
Okay, this is so much more complex than I thought it was.
Yeah. So every time you catch or hatch a Pokemon, they have randomized stats. But in order to be competitive, you don't want them to be randomized, you want them to be specific, and you want them to be the best they can possibly be.
Okay.
So, in order to do that, you have to get perfect IVs, the ability you want, and the nature you want. And doing this takes quite a bit of time and is rather complicated. So, you don't want these IVs to be random, and there are ways you can manipulate it when you're hatching them, which is the most common way you do it. In a way that works kind of like Yahtzee.
Okay.
So IVs range from 0 to 31, and in most cases you want 31. And every time a Pokemon hatches random stats, except if you give it a certain item, in which case, because there's 2 Pokemon, they have 6 stats each for a total of 12. If you give them that certain item, 5 of those 12 stats will pass on to the offspring. So like I said, it's kind of like Yahtzee, where you roll a dice and then you keep certain rolls.
What? Okay. So I just honestly thought you just catch them because of the you gotta catch them all
Yeah,
thing.
You do. But if you want them to be, special and strong, you need to either keep catching them or you keep hatching them from eggs until you get the strongest possible version.
I got you.
And because this is still random, you have to keep hatching them over and over again. In order to hatch them, like each time you want to hatch a Pokemon, you have to wait for an egg to appear, which takes time. It happens at a random interval. Then you have to have your character run around in-game so that the egg will hatch. And after a certain amount of, steps, the egg will hatch. And you'll be able to check if your Pokemon's good or not. And you have to keep doing this continuously until you slowly build up doing that sort of Yahtzee system where you get, better and better random rolls on your Pokemon.
Wow.
Until its IVs are all 31 like you want them to be.
Interesting.
And abilities and natures also work like this, but they're less, time-consuming. There are only 3 possible abilities for each Pokemon species, and in most cases it's just a 60-40% chance that you'll get the ability you want it to have. So it's not a huge problem, it just adds a little bit more randomness to the mix. And natures are random, and there are 25 of them. However, there's a way to give a Pokemon a specific item so that its offspring will always have the same nature as it. So it's just a 1 in 25 chance that you have to do, and you only have to do that once.
Ah.
And you have to do this 6 times to get the kind of Pokemon you want, because you battle with a team of 6.
So, you have to do all of that stuff 6 times?
Yes, for each Pokemon that you want to have with the best possible stats.
Okay, and 6 is the maximum Pokemon you can have? Or that's just the ones that go to battle?
Yeah,
okay,
gotcha. With you to go to battle. You can have well, there is a hard limit, but you can have a bunch of them.
I got you, okay.
And we're not done, because there's also other things you have to consider, such as train stats, moves, and items. Each Pokemon has 4 moves, and that's how they battle. You select a move, and then it's like an attack or some sort of effect that, makes it rain or, raises your stats. And you need to have these different moves. Sometimes these moves are easy to get, you can learn some from items you purchase with in-game currency, which only takes maybe a few minutes to do. But sometimes they're kind of difficult, and they do require you hatching certain Pokemon, which require these weird, breeding chains where you have to breed this one Pokemon with this other Pokemon, and then the offspring will learn the move. And then you have to take that offspring and breed it with another Pokemon, which can take a while and is kind of complicated.
I was gonna say, this sounds complicated.
Yeah, it is. Items are a thing that Pokemon hold, and they give different effects. Some of them are easy to get, you just find them in a specific place in the game, and that only takes a few minutes. Some of them require you to get a lot of special in-game currency, or to just find randomly at a 5 or 10% chance. So those can take a while. And finally, there are train stats, or EVs. EVs are a thing where every time your Pokemon defeats another Pokemon, it gains a little stat boost. So, for example, if your Pokemon defeats a Pikachu in battle, it gets 2 speed EVs, and defeating enough Pikachus will mean that your Pokemon will start to move faster.
So it's basically they get stronger.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, you can have a total of 510 EVs per Pokemon, and defeating a Pokemon can give a max of 3 EVs. So, that's a minimum of 170 battles.
I was gonna say, so that's a ton of battles that you'd have to do to get the maximum EVs.
Now, there are ways to speed this up. You can do it twice as fast, or even faster, but it still requires a lot of battles, especially considering you have to do this for each of your 6 Pokemon. So, after having done all this, you now have your Pokemon all trained up and ready to battle competitively, which is a process that can take hours and hours to complete. And you might think you're ready to go, but what if you want to change something about your team? What if you don't like this one move on your Pokemon and you want a different one? Or maybe you want to change their EVs. Maybe you don't like them having speed EVs and you want to put it into health instead or something, Well, you've got to go back and partially repeat this process to change stuff. Or, maybe you're not feeling this one Pokemon entirely and you want to get a different one. Well, then you have to start this whole thing over again.
Wow.
So any changes add even more time.
For each Pokemon?
Yes.
You have to start over for each one? Or
if you want
just
a new
if you want to change? Ah, I gotcha.
if you, like, there are some things you can just change. Like, you can just give them new moves.
Okay. This is complicated.
Yeah, it's complicated and time-consuming.
Yeah.
So, it means participating in competitive Pokemon requires a hefty time investment before you even get to the point where you start playing against other people.
Wow.
Now, each new Pokemon game that's come out has made this process a little easier and a little faster.
Okay.
And at this point, it's much faster than it used to be. Like, the way I outlined before is still possible to do, it's just not the best way to do it anymore.
Okay.
Instead of taking a lot of time to hatch a bunch of Pokemon for IVs and battle a bunch of Pokemon for EVs, for example, you can just use items now. These items are consumable, so you still have to play quite a bit to keep getting new items for each of the 6 Pokemon, but it takes much less time to get a full competitive team than it used to.
That's good. More efficient, I guess.
Yeah. Now, I don't know how long this takes because I've never tried to get a full competitive team, but it takes definitely several hours less than it used to.
Good.
However, though, that's still quite a bit of time, and you may have noticed something. Pokemon are not real.
I did notice that.
They're lines of code that exist in a computer program,
Okay.
which means that if someone hypothetically figured out how to, you could edit those stuff as you want. So you could
that's
change
cheating.
the stats.
Is that cheating?
Well, you're jumping ahead a bit. That's where the argument comes from.
Oh, okay, I got you, okay.
Which people have done. There exists a program that you can use to create Pokemon and customize their stats all you want.
Mm-hmm.
And this takes significantly less time because it takes much less time to type a few, like, stats into a computer than it does to do all this stuff in-game.
Okay.
That I, like, just told you about, which takes a long time, is rather complicated. Instead, you can just sit on your computer and, like, type in, I want 31 in this stat, 31 in this stat. Much faster.
Right.
Now, you do have to jailbreak your console to get your Pokemon from the computer onto your game.
Oh.
But once you've done that, you can make a full team of competitive Pokemon in a matter of minutes.
Okay.
So, yeah, and that's where the argument comes in, is whether or not it's okay to do that.
Oh, okay, so...
Well, hold on. A few things first.
Okay.
Before you start jumping into it. Like, a note real quick that, like, you might be thinking if you can, like, change these Pokemon stats and stuff, is it possible to do things like give a Pokemon a move they wouldn't normally learn, or make its stats higher than it normally would be?
Right.
And yes, you can do that, but you can't do that and enter into a competitive event, because there are in-game checks, and if you try to enter into a competitive event with a Pokemon that, say, has higher stats than normal, you'll get disqualified.
Okay.
But if you make a Pokemon that could come from the game, you know, is within the range of possibilities for a Pokemon, it will pass these checks. So, you know, there's no way to tell if your Pokemon was generated or gotten through working through the game to get it.
Oh, so they can't, like, officials can't tell?
No.
What? Okay.
Right. And, yeah, so the argument is, you know, some people think it's not okay to do this. They think, you know, since you're going outside of the intended way to play these games, that's not right. And it's not fair to players who put all this time and effort in to raise their Pokemon. And these people often think it's cheating.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also against official tournament policy. So some people oppose it on that ground.
Oh.
But other people think, you know, this is fine to do. Because it doesn't actually give you an unfair advantage in the battle.
Yeah.
That all you're doing is skipping some of the setup time. That the generated Pokemon are indistinguishable from Pokemon that you would otherwise get in the game. So it's not actually cheating. So yeah, that's the argument. Where do you come down on this?
Oh, okay, so... Once again, there are two sides of every coin. Pros and cons to both. On one hand, I'm like, okay, this is the, like, work smarter, not harder argument. Whereas, if you can do it in a way that saves time, it sounds like a substantial amount of time. And it still does require skill to figure out how you want your Pokemon to be. Like, you're still, you know, using that skill to make your team, right?
Mm-hmm.
So... I can see how people say, well, it's the same thing. Like, what difference does it make if I went about it this way instead of this other way? You know, to me, that's like, okay, it doesn't give you an unfair advantage once you go to battle, but it's like the whole prep leading up to it, right? So you could go either way on that one, because on the other hand, if it is against the official tournament rules and that's how you did it, then yeah, that you shouldn't be in the tournament, you know? So, and I guess the argument there is like, we'll change that requirement because everybody's coming to the table. At the end of the day, everybody's coming to the table with the same thing. They just went about it in a different way. So, I mean, I can go either way on that one. Like, my first instinct when you were talking about it was like, oh, no, that's cheating. Like, I can't believe they did that. But when you said, like, they can't, I mean, that you can only alter it up to a certain point, meaning that it still has to meet, like, basic requirements for the tournament, right? So they're still qualified. They just went about it differently. But I can see for those people who took the time and the hour, well, the same thing. I can see from those people who took the time to do it that they'd be like, no, that's unfair. Like, they skipped a whole process. And I guess it just depends on, like, how are you defining, like, the tournament being on a level playing field? Because if it doesn't matter up to that point how you did it, I mean, everybody technically is level when they start the tournament, right?
Yeah.
But I can see the argument in that, well, they didn't do it the way that it was intended. Does that really matter, though? But I think at the end of the day, if you're playing competitively in a tournament and the official tournament rules say that you have to have done it, you know, I guess the long way, for lack of a better term, then that's against tournament rules and you should be disqualified.
Well, the problem is it's impossible to tell.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to be able to disqualify anybody who generates their Pokemon.
I got you. So, I think, well, in that way, I do think it's kind of cheating, but until those tournament requirements are changed, you know, or are there other tournaments that you can enter where it doesn't matter, you know, how you did it?
I mean, not officially, no.
I mean, and is that a possibility in the future where, you know, or would that make any sense to do? I don't know.
Well, there are, like, fan tournaments, and, like, there is a whole, like, scene of competitive Pokemon players that aren't, like, completely unofficial, like, completely fan-done.
Yeah.
That's actually rather popular.
Well,
so, like, if you're just interested in doing that, you can do that.
Well, see, and I think that's, like, that's the time and the place for those players who want to do their code without going through, you know, the whole prep that everybody else has to go to. Like, those tournaments are for them, I guess. Because I can see if you took all that time to get your team together the right way, or I don't want to say the right way, but the way that it was intended, then I can see being upset if somebody just, like, kind of skipped a bunch of steps and, you know, are doing it. But at the same time, like I'm saying, everybody's on a level playing field at the end of the day. They just went about it in a different way. So, I mean, I could see either way because, I mean, it is pretty smart of those people just to change the code. Like, and again, it does require skill to do that. Like, I couldn't just go and do it. You know, you have to know what you're doing, right? So, I'm kind of like, I could go either way on that one. But, again, I do think, like, they should play in, like, the fan tournament things, not, like, the official Pokemon tournament then. Like, the official Pokemon tournament should be for the people who follow the exact rules of that tournament. And for those who don't want to follow those rules, which, I mean, arguably you shouldn't have to if you can get to it in a different way, then go do the other tournaments.
Well, there's, like, a prestige thing, like, you know, be official versus, like, fan competitions.
Gotcha.
Like, it's different, you know?
It's like if you win an unofficial tournament, it's just kind of like...
Yeah,
it's
not quite the
as
same.
Prestigious. I got you, yeah. I see. I mean, I don't know. Like, how do you feel about that?
So, yeah, my opinion is I think it's completely fine. I don't think it's cheating because it doesn't give an unfair advantage. To me, the skill, like, the point of the competition and the skill being tested is, one, you know, the, like, team building, like what Pokemon are you going to choose, what moves are you going to give them,
Right.
and then 2, like the actual battling, like once you get into it, how well are you at playing the game.
Yeah.
And to me, that like is regardless of how you got your Pokemon, that's the same for every player. Like you were saying, it's a level playing field. So I don't think it violates the competition at all, like, or the spirit of the competition or whatever. Like, as an example, I could generate you a competitive team and have you do a battle, and you would still lose regardless of like who you played against. Like if you battled against someone who did it completely in-game like it's intended to be. Because you've never played the game before,
Exactly. And that's the whole other thing, too, is like you're saying, someone else can, like, do the preparation part for you, and then you go into battle with it, right? Like, technically.
Yes.
Like, at the, so, I mean, is that cheating, too, then? Like, if you're not the one who did all the prep work, but you're just the one who fights the battles in the tournament?
Right, yeah.
I think you can argue a lot of different ways. So if that's the case, then like I think they need to change the tournament rules.
Well,
to say, to not specify that that's the way you had to do it, But I guess the diehard like traditionalist will, still be aggravated about that. But I mean, there are so many ways you could quote cheat on the front end, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, as I keep saying, you're on a level playing field, right?
Yeah. And the thing about that, though, is, like, I don't think they're gonna change the rules specifically because, like, doing that requires, home brewing or, like, jailbreaking, stuff like that.
Ah, I got you, yeah.
And I don't think they wanna in any way, like, incentivize that.
Encourage, yeah.
But they kind of turn a blind eye to it. I mean, mostly because, like I said, these are indistinguishable from, legitimately obtained Pokemon.
Yeah.
But, like, if they can't tell, they're not gonna, like, raise suspicion against someone. Like, there are some players where they probably did it, like, just based on, like... So there is a, thing in Pokemon called Shiny Pokemon, and that's when the Pokemon are a different color, and that's really rare. Which means that it's, like, really hard to get a Pokemon that is both shiny and competitively viable.
Okay.
It's not impossible, it would just take even more time. So, like, if someone enters into a tournament, which has happened before, with a team full of, like, shiny Pokemon, they probably just generated them on a computer.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's not really possible to tell, and it's like, are they going to try to throw suspicion against someone if they can't prove it? Like, it's not provable that they did it, it's just, they probably did it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if it doesn't give you any kind of competitive advantage once you start the tournament, then why the heck does it matter how you did it, right?
Yeah, that's certainly my opinion on it.
Yeah. And again, I will go back to, I'm sure it takes considerable skill and strategy to figure out your team, no matter which way you do it. So, I mean, I feel like not to discount the people who are just going in and changing code, because to me, that's still strategy. You're still figuring out which players, or I don't know what you call them, I guess which Pokemon
yes.
need to be on your team and what levels they need to be. So you're still strategizing, and you're just, the skill is, instead of taking all the time to do it, you're just doing it in a different way.
Yeah.
So I could go with that. I mean, I wouldn't be aggravated if I would. I mean, of course, I'm not like in this, world.
Right,
but I wouldn't be aggravated if I went to a tournament and somebody had like a team that they did with code, and I took all the time to like build my team, because I'm like, oh, that's pretty smart. Like, you found a better way. That's great, But I'm not necessarily that competitive with stuff like that. So.
I mean, the thing is, though, is that like there have been like several players that either, like, you're pretty sure have done it or have, like, admitted to do it, like, generating Pokemon, like, including, world champions, so...
Well, are they disqualified if they admit that?
I don't think they've been. Like, I think it... maybe some of them had stuff retroactively revoked.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know. Like, again, if they show up to one and they're like, yeah, my Pokemon are legitimate, even though they're generated, like, you can't tell.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, if you can't tell, like, what's the difference? I mean, I guess, and so I guess the argument is from those people who spend the time to do it the way it was intended, right? Like, they're the ones who are aggravated?
yes. But some people get really mad about this. Like, I've seen some people write off the whole thing just because they're like,
Wow.
so many people are doing it and they think it's cheating, and they're like, I wish the Pokemon Company could do something about this, but like I'm done with it because so many people are cheating.
Wow. I mean, I think, like, in some people's personalities, they're very much like rule followers, you know?
Yeah,
And other times, you know, other people are just like, well, if I can do it this way and it's easier and better, like, why not, you know?
right.
I don't know. I mean, I can see, like, are there high stakes? Like, do you win, like, stuff?
There are cash prizes, yes.
Okay. So that kind of adds, you
I
know.
don't know what those cash prizes are and when you start getting them,
Yeah.
but I do know for the World Championships at least there are cash prizes.
That's pretty cool. That kind of ups the ante a little bit.
Yeah.
Man, these people getting real competitive.
But, I mean, a lot of people aren't, like, trying to play because they want to be, like, go to the World Championship. Some people just want to go to their, like, local event and just, like, play with other people for fun.
Yeah.
Like the difference between
Have
playing
fun.
pickup basketball and playing in the NBA.
Right. You know, and I think that goes back to, like, some people are just very competitive and some people are super rule followers and, you know, I don't know. That's a hard one. Like, so does, I guess, like, the Pokemon, like, company, do they say anything about the people who change codes?
I don't know. I don't know enough to know that, like, about that. I do know some people have been disqualified on technicalities.
Okay.
Because they had some, like, weird instances where they, like, generated a Pokemon that was technically illegal because it was in the wrong Pokeball. And the checker caught it. And they just didn't realize it wasn't supposed to be in that Pokeball.
I got you.
That it was like a special ball that it couldn't be in. And some people have gotten disqualified for that.
Oh.
But that's about all I know about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, my initial reaction was like, well, you can't do that. And then, like, now, like, as you explained it more, I'm like, well, but, I mean, if it's all the same when you start playing, like, who cares? But, again, like, I'm not in that world. I don't think I have experienced the time it takes to do it the way it was intended. So, but from, like, you know, a disinterested third party point of view, I'm kind of like, man, look, either way, like, I'm impressed by what you can do. Like, whether you do it the long way or the short way, like, you still have considerable skill and strategy needed to play the game. So, you know, good for you. You know, like, I don't know, maybe I'm easily impressed as well. But, I mean, I could go either way on that. So, have you tried to do the code thing?
Oh, yeah.
Like, do you know how to do that?
Yes. But not for, like, competitive reasons, just to, like, put different Pokemon in my game because I wanted them.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, in either way, like, you're still playing the game, you're still having fun with it, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm playing completely by myself, so, like, nobody's affected by that.
Yeah, well, that's good. So, you know, I mean, of course you won't win a cash prize, but
No.
what you gonna do? See, I think it's kind of cool. I mean, I would have fun manipulating code and figuring out how to do that, you know?
Well, the people who make the program are the ones who actually do that. Like, for everybody else, they just open the program, and it's really easy to do. It just shows you, like, little drop-down menus and, like, entry points where you just type in, like, I want their stats to be this, I want their move to be this, and it's really simple to do.
That's cool. I mean, I think that, again, I'll go back to, I think all of that is strategy. So, I think it still requires considerable skill to build a good team, you know?
Yeah.
I think, you know what? Like, do it. See how it goes. I mean, and if you, like, did it the long way, the way it was intended, and you beat everybody, then good for you. And if you don't, like, I feel like you're still competing, and it's still valid, so, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't get mad at that, but I can see why some people would be like, no, I did it the right way. I feel like there's no right way, no wrong way, but once again, I'm not in the game.
Yeah.
I don't really know, you know? Yeah. That's funny, though. I had no idea it got so serious.
Yep. Well, that's been an online argument.
Yeah.
You have anything else to add, or you want to take us out?
No, I'll go ahead and take us out. This has
All right.
been a very interesting discussion. We've had 2 arguments today. Whoa.
Yeah, well, one of them gets a bit less heated. It's not always a heated discussion. There's some
No.
people who don't do it, like don't generate Pokemon, but like understand why other people would. And
Sure.
it doesn't always get so heated.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it's interesting no matter what. It's a topic that I wasn't aware of, so I think it's interesting. But, either way, whichever way you fall on that, with the streaming and with the Pokemon, I mean, everybody's got their opinions. So, on that note, I will take us out. Thank you for listening to Beach View, and join us next time. Bye.
Bye.